Mm-hmm.
That. All right. Wonderful. Well, it looks like we've got people signing on now, so we'll give everybody a few more moments before we get started here.
Are we also, Ashley, are we going to have people on, are we going to have people muting their videos, or are we going to do everyone using their video?
So we'll go ahead and ask all of the participants to turn their video off while the panelists are speaking, just so that way they can see your guys' face or your presentation, whatever your preference is. And then once we get to the question and answer portion, we'll allow people to turn their video back on if they want, certainly not required. So
Okay.
make sure that that gets announced at the beginning. Yeah, excellent point, Anna Maria.
Can you see me right now? Because I can't see myself.
Yep.
Yes,
I think
we
you're
can
just on
see
a
you.
different screen.
That's so interesting. I have no idea what I'm even seeing.
I see you.
Okay.
I do too.
And I'm centered. Am I centered?
You're looking good, Anna Maria.
No,
All right. Okay, good, because I could not see myself right now.
Okay, see.
We'll see if. All right. We've got a good number of people signed on here. So Dr. Lele, do you want to go ahead and get started?
Yes, I do. So I'll start by saying hello, everyone, and welcome to our session today. This is our Let's Talk Africa COVID-19 series, which we actually started last month. And we are very happy to see everyone and to welcome especially our guests who will be our panelists today. So my name is Macrina Lele. I am the Associate Director of the African Studies Program at the University of Pittsburgh. So African Studies is housed under the University Center for International Studies, whose mission is to integrate and reinforce all the strands of international scholarship in the university, in research, teaching, and public service. So what we essentially exist to do is to promote the multidisciplinary study of Africa, especially the continent's cultures and societies. So at a moment like this, we really like to bring people together to have a conversation, to learn from each other, to just enrich our knowledge of current issues, things that are happening, and so forth. So I am honored to welcome you all to this event, to this series, which, as I said, is our second installation in the series. Our purpose in creating this series is to provide space for conversation about the impact of COVID-19 on the various sectors in African countries. The first session in the series last month focused especially on everyday experiences of people dealing with the challenges during this time of COVID-19. We especially just wanted to hear stories from the grassroots, stories from people's personal experiences, how they are dealing with these unprecedented challenges of COVID-19 that actually came to us very unexpectedly. I don't think anyone saw this coming. So it's really become a big challenge. We had panelists from Kenya, South Africa, Morocco, and Nigeria, and they all shared their personal and professional experiences about what was going on in their respective locations and how people are dealing with the challenges and also creating opportunities to really, face life in different ways, especially because the new normal is so different from what we are used to. So the key things that emerged in those conversations were centered around how people's livelihoods have been disrupted, and especially their people in employment, people have been laid off, schools have been closed, a lot of things have just changed. It's nothing like we knew it. So issues of unemployment were very, very rampant in our discussions before, and the shutting down of businesses and shutting down of schools. So we thought that in our next session, we should do the impact of COVID-19 on education in developing countries, especially African countries. And that's why we are gathered here this afternoon to actually look at education. We know that education is a key component, is a key aspect in our lives. And when it's disrupted, what does that imply? So our discussions today will help us to really think about considerations that have, disruptions that have happened. To what scale? How are countries coping with these disruptions? So we are very fortunate to have the different panelists who will be introduced shortly, who will share with us and really help us to understand what is going on in the different locations, what's happening, especially in rural locations where technology learning platforms are still inaccessible. So my colleagues who are present here with us, I'm actually going to introduce them quickly, and they are going to take over, especially in introducing the guests and moderating this event. So today with us, we have Dr. Anna Maria Carnes, who is our academic advisor for the African Studies program. We have Dr. Ashley Sachs, who is our also program development manager. And I think she's been communicating with most of you, so that name is very familiar. And then we also have our brand new member of staff, Drew Medved, who just joined us this Monday. So we told him you must come so that you can start learning more about Africa and just what we do. So Drew is also here with us, and we are very happy to have everyone. I want to welcome everybody who has joined us. I can see we have quite a number of participants, and we are really excited about it. So without further ado, I defer back to Ashley Sachs to take over and give us the housekeeping rules before Anna Maria can do her thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lele. I would just like to echo how excited we are to have our panelists with us today, and also all of you guys joining to learn from them and interact with them. So just a few kind of housekeeping rules. The first part of the session is going to be our panelists sharing their experiences in their countries. So at that point, we'll ask all of our participants to go ahead and turn your cameras off and make sure you're muted, just so we don't get any background noise or distractions or anything like that. Dr. Carnes is going to introduce each of them, and they will all speak. And then afterwards, we will open up for a question and answer session. So that will be the time for you guys who are watching and joining to turn back on your cameras if you'd like to use your raise hand function on Zoom, or just go ahead and unmute yourself and start chatting to ask a question. Dr. Carnes will moderate that discussion as well to kind of just keep things organized. If you guys run into any technology difficulties, please feel free to message me on Zoom chat or send me an email, and I'll do the best I can to get you reconnected or solve that issue. So we're really excited to hear from everyone today. Dr. Anna Maria Carnes, go ahead and take it away.
Hello, welcome. We are so excited you're here, to everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the first panelist. Remember, the panelists will have 10 minutes, to speak. And then just like Ashley said, at the end, we'll have lots of time for questions, and it'll be wonderful just to get a great discussion going. And just remember, this is just an informal panel, and this time is just to talk and really kind of learn from individuals in Africa what's really going on in their countries about education, and just get someone there, right, that knows what's going on. So anyway, our first panelist today is Dr. Zubair Benloumi. He is an author, expert, and professor in Algeria, even writing on governance in Algeria. And he's worked in Algiers and in the west of Algeria, but today he is coming to us from Paris, France. So he's going to go ahead and introduce yourself to us, Dr. Zubair, and then share with us what's going on in Algeria with education.
Thank you, Dr. Anna Maria Carnes. Thank you also, Dr. Ashley Sachs, and thank you, Dr. Macrina Lele. I am honored to be a panelist for this Let's Talk Africa event organized by the African Studies program of the University of Pittsburgh. and I'm happy to join you and to share information on education in Algeria, in particular in this COVID-19 period. In fact, as you said, I'm working on innovation as expert, so as professor teaching in Algeria in White Sea Business School for many years. And I am expert also in technology, in electronics, and I have worked worldwide, in fact, both in Europe and Asia, and partly also in doing projects in the US. Here, as you can see from this first slide, in fact, it summarizes the situation of today, where you see the amphitheater here of University of Constantine at the left, which is empty, and at the right, you see the online courses, and I will show you more. Okay, so I try to go. Doesn't work. Sorry. Yeah, as you said, in fact, I am author of a number of books, and 5 years ago, I wrote a book on Algerian University on how change management is dealt with, and also on how to innovate in this area. And I did it with Professor Hadibi. I have written a book called Words of Algerian that gives a synthesis between economic, social, and political aspect. And 1 year ago, I wrote a book called Ideas for Algerian Constitutional Law, because it's quite moving, the situation in Algeria, and I wanted to make a contribution on this. Algeria, where is it? So if from Pittsburgh, and you see that it's 4,300 miles away, and if you zoom, you see here that Memphis, Charlotte, and LA here, the 3 towns are on the same parallel, on the same latitude. And you see also that they are on the same latitude as Algiers. So we are not so far. Also, you see that a large part of Algeria today is on the same latitude as a large part of the United States. Algeria is the 10th largest country in the world and the 1st largest country in Africa. Its population is around 44 million, and it's a young country with 50% below 30 years old. In terms of education, we have 9 million people in primary and secondary schools and 2 million in higher education. It means roughly that it's 11 million people in education, which is 1 out of 4 people in Algeria. And it has a lot of consequences in terms of economics. The number of universities is 100. Penetration of technology is high, especially in terms of communication, where a vast deployment has been done this last decade in terms of mobile phones and mobile and fixed internet, and social networks are quite popular. COVID-19 in Algeria, situation is not good. So from these figures are from 3 days ago. You see that it's increasing, and the number of active cases is 6,000. It's of course it's not the same scale as in the United States or in Europe, but still it's a huge problem in Algeria. And you see also that the number of deaths is increasing. So the situation today is not good. What about education in Algeria? We have the primary and secondary, and in the secondary we have junior and upper secondary schools, and this is one of them in the west of Algeria. And the academic year, in fact, it's separated in 3 terms: the autumn, the winter, and the spring term. For the university, you have the 100 in university, and they deliver degrees in bachelor degrees, master, and PhD. And the academic year is split into the first semester and the second semester, which start in February. until July. So this COVID-19 has been, in fact, had a big impact, and you see that schools and universities are closed since March 13th, and they have switched to distance learning. And you see here the red part, which affects the spring term of the primary and secondary schools, and it affects the second semester of universities. And they have been replaced by online courses, both TV channel and web TV channel. As you can see from this picture, there are a number of lessons, and this teacher is showing here a lesson on physics for the junior secondary school, and here it's lesson number 5. Regarding the exams, decision has been taken, in fact, to take into account the grades of first and second terms. These grades will be used to assess pupils for the whole year. And the transition from secondary junior to upper secondary will also take into account these grades. But if the grades are not okay for some pupils, then they have to go through a formal exam, and this exam is now planned for September the 9th. Regarding the entrance to universities, there is an exam which is called the baccalaureate. Normally, it should have been done in June, but now it's postponed to mid-September. And universities, in fact, now switched to online courses using Moodle learning management system. And they have interactive sessions with students, and lab activities have been replaced by demonstrations and simulations. Some teachers are even innovating using Facebook groups to interact with their students and other online tools to perform activities and assess students through QCMs, etc. There is a good initiative from a mobile operator in Algeria. He has granted free access to Facebook. This helps a lot. And for final year students who are due to graduate in June, in fact, they can defend their thesis or their projects of bachelor, master, or PhD in person. Otherwise, if they cannot do it in June, or they could not do it in June, it had to be postponed to late August and September. This situation brings a lot of challenges. Its situation is new in itself, and the education setup is also new. So the challenge today is in the implementation. The implementation, it's about infrastructure, availability of internet connection, PCs for student and teacher. So some do have, and some don't. And also, you can have poor internet performance depending on location. So especially, as you said, in rural areas, it can be difficult to connect. It's also about creating good quality pedagogical material in short time. So designing a website, designing a video needs, of course, some skills. And you have to review the pedagogical material, etc. So this is, for some teachers, it's new, and it has to be done in short time and in a period of crisis. It's also about change management in general. You have to get the buy-in from teachers and students. Many university teachers are not used to online teaching, and some teachers are not willing to put content online. Some teachers are not happy also of redoing the courses in person during the catch-up period, which is planned from August onwards. And there are organization issues. You have also to motivate pupils to study online and avoid knowledge gap. So knowing that online courses are not mandatory for primary and secondary schools. The current status, in fact, is that apart from the final year students who are due to graduate in June, July, students have not returned to schools. Only final year students who have made good progress on their thesis were invited to thesis defense in person. And during this thesis defense, they have to avoid close contacts with people and respect safe distancing and hand hygiene. So distance is at least 1 meter, and they have to wear a mask. So when are we going to return to normal, the new normal? So situation is not clear today, but there is a plan, and the plan is to reopen universities late August, and then to have 6 weeks for catching up second semester, and then to start the new academic year only in November. And exam to enter university will be done mid-September. And for primary school, it will also start in September. But the current pandemic trend is not good. We see an increase in the number of infections, so this can impact the current plan. The benefit to education is the acceleration of digital transformation. We have to learn in a different way and use the technology of this era. And people now are aware of the new capabilities. We have also students are able to work on their own pace, and some teachers, they opted for fast move to online education. So there are best case also to use. So as we are limited in time, just word about future of education. Before we had distance learning for decades, but it was limited to some categories of learners. And we have online education with TV broadcast. But the internet era where we are today, we have to go to massive deployment of online education. And you see here a link between the technology roadmap, where you see that we have gone from terrestrial to satellite TV to mobile phone to internet today. And we have to link the education to this roadmap and to go to a massive deployment for online education. And this will bring a lot of also advantages in terms of cost, in terms of quality of education. So it will bring quite a significant benefit for the future, I believe. And I leave you with a picture of Algiers, and I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Such interesting times that are happening. Next, we're going to hear, and then actually, Dr. Zubair, I think you also have to leave early. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry.
So if there are any burning questions for Dr. Zubair, you guys can ask right now, just because he does have to leave the call early. So is there anyone that wanted to ask a question about Algeria? I can't see everybody right now. Let me see if anyone has their hands up or anything, or any chat questions.
Yeah, hi, my name is Silvanos Ayeni, and I'm calling from Maryland. Thank you so much for that presentation. Do you have any, how much cooperation or lack of cooperation are you receiving from your government, both at the federal, state, and local levels?
In fact, Algeria is quite centralized in terms of governance and management. So it's a government that is, in fact, giving the means. But today, it's also about the initiatives of people. Because the government, they can give means, but if teachers, they take initiatives themselves, they have tools, they can do a lot, and some are doing. Locally at the university, high school, etc. So there is support from the government, but it's also up to the teachers to take up the job and to innovate. And
I'm speaking specifically in terms of funding for all the things you need to move from brick and mortar education to online education.
Yeah, in fact, if we look to the future, all the money that we are planned to be spent in brick and mortar schools, etc., they have to be dedicated in part to online education, I believe. Okay, so there are budgets, but it's about resources reallocation. So a new strategy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm curious about the access, in terms of accessibility, especially for technology across the country. How is that playing out?
Yeah, in fact, as I said, in fact, Algeria there is quite good coverage, in fact, in terms of mobile phones. Everybody has a mobile phone, and a lot have smartphones, etc. Activity in terms of social networks is quite high, and people interact a lot. So overall, the means are good. It's not perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's quite high. But we have, of course, to improve because sometimes you get disconnection. Sometimes maybe there are some poor people that do not have the means. It's not a perfect situation. But overall, it's good, and it's possible to leverage on what is today to do a step further to improve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Zubir, for being with us. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's a very pleasure for me.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on to Ghana. So we're going to hear from Dr. Kwazi Jesse Jamra, who's the director of CIEE's Study Center. CIEE is a study abroad kind of profit program in the US, but also has a center here in Ghana, in Legon, and he is coming to us from Accra, Ghana. So go ahead, Dr. Kwazi.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna Maria, and welcome everyone. My name is Kwesi Jesse Jamra. As Anna Maria said, I serve as the director for CIEE, Council on International Educational Exchange, which is an organization that brings in Americans to come and study at University of Ghana for a semester or for a year. And so COVID-19 impacted us very directly as an institution that works within the University of Ghana, bringing international students from especially the US and also other international students who study in Ghana. And that is what I want to share with you. Ghana's first case, well, Ghana is located in West Africa, gained independence from Britain in 1957. University of Ghana is the country's premier university. It is the most highly ranked university in Ghana, has the most wide range of courses and offerings in terms of programs from engineering to medicine to social sciences, has a population of about 40,000 students, and international students make up about 3% of the population of the university. March 12 was the period that Ghana recorded its first 2 cases of coronavirus, which were both imported cases. And since then, the country's educational landscape has just changed, and significantly so, right from university all the way down to kindergarten. And so on the week when the first case was found, first 2 cases were found, the University of Ghana also had a suspected case. And so it became necessary to close down the school in terms of the university. Primary schools have already started moving in that direction, but the president of Ghana made an announcement to ask all educational institutions to shut. So university was closed, all schools were closed. By March 15, March 16, there was no educational institution in Ghana that was functioning as we used to know it, brick and mortar style. And this has continued as we speak. The country went on partial lockdown, the city of Accra, or the Greater Accra region, and the second largest city went on lockdown for a number of weeks, and things started looking up. The lockdown was really lessened to allow for some movements to happen. In terms of education and going to school, as we speak, not except for final year students at the university level, final year students at senior high school, and final year students at junior high school. Everybody else is at home. And being home, the shift has been to go online to do online education. Teachers have used a range of course instructions. They have used Google Classroom, they have used Zoom, they have used WebEx and all of that. So that is what has happened, where there's been a complete shift from in-person class to an online class. Teachers are teaching, sending questions and holding short sessions or pre-recorded sessions, which we call asynchronous learning, to their students and pupils at various levels. And that is what has been going on. The government of Ghana also dedicated national television channels to beam classroom, class exercises, right from upper primary being class 4 or grade 4, all the way to senior high school, which is K-12, to study either online through internet or through the channel of TV. So there was a timetable on television that was saying that at 9:30 to say 10 o'clock, there is mathematics for grade 4, and it went on like that. In addition to that, there has been a radio channel that has also been dedicated for junior high, lower primary, which is from grade 3 and below, to learn reading skills and all of that. All of this is through the medium of the media landscape, basically. And so that has been the situation in Ghana. Tertiary level education have completed their examinations, which was shifted online. They did every class, the remaining of their classes online. And those who had challenges were allowed to come onto campus for only a limited number of time, for about a week, to use the university's internet facilities and take their final exam, which was also done online. There was no in-person classroom. About 4 weeks ago, senior high school persons were asked to come back to school. Senior high school final year students. So this is K-12 who are going to transit into the university by September of this year. They are in school right now, and a lot of protocols, face masks, hand washing, all of these provided by the government of Ghana through central funding, and also benevolent organizations who have supported this drive. These crop of students are getting in-person classroom education as we speak. And they've started their national examinations last Friday. For junior high, which is grade 9, final year students, they are also in school, in person, and are also being taught in person. And the protocols are that not one class should have more than 25 students, and there should be the mandatory distancing of minimum 2 meters from person A to person B. So this is what is going on right now in the country. There has been a few infections among students of these senior high school students, and about 161 cases of COVID-19 has been confirmed with senior high school students. as we speak, there is a recovery rate of about 87% amongst them. The nation, Ghana itself, has about 30,000 plus COVID-19 cases, and there is about 85% recovery rate currently as we speak. So basically, this is how the country looks right now. And in terms of how school is going to go on for next year, it's still in person is not a conversation that is being had yet. It is still in the works, but at least from what is going on right now, there's likely to be a situation where the most definite time that we can start having an in-person classroom would probably be somewhere in January. Thank you very much, of 2021.
Thank you, Dr. Kwazi. Okay, now we're gonna go on to the next speaker. So we are gonna hear from Dr. Zablon Magunji, who is currently a lecturer at the University of Arusha in Tanzania. Go ahead, Zablon.
Like his mic is muted still.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now, right?
Yes, yep, you're good.
Okay, perfect. It gives me a great pleasure to be part of this conversation. I remember it was postponed earlier because of technical issues that others had, and I'm very happy that it's finally happening. My name is Zablon Mbonja, and I speak with you right now from the United Republic of Tanzania, which is in East Africa. Currently, it's 7:38 p.m. Pretty dark right here. So my conversation this evening has been affected a little bit by the sudden death of our president, former president, His Excellency Benjamin William Mkapa. He suddenly died last night. And so our country is mourning at the moment, and we have 7 days of mourning. The cause of his death is not determined yet. So it's a bit tense in the country. And speaking of COVID-19, we recorded the first case early in March, and it wasn't local. This was a person who had traveled from Belgium and reported in Arusha, and that pretty much caused a shock to everyone, and that led to closure of schools in the second week of March. And speaking of our education system, the education system in Tanzania is divided in, we have primary education, where pupils go to school for the first 7 years of their education. And then we have 4 years of secondary education, and we have another 2 years of high school. And then we have university for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years for bachelor's, depending on the course of study that someone is taking, and then master's and PhD. But also we have public education and private education. And so the impact, if you look at the way education was impacted, is different based on whether it is private or public. The public education was highly impacted. Schools were officially closed in March. I think it was March 17th. all the schools from primary to university were closed and nobody was allowed to go to school. So for private, public education, there wasn't a lot of activities at the beginning, but from the second week on, the government figured out a system where kids could still receive education via radio and television, because many are not so conversant with online learning. So the only means that was available for public education was television and radio, and of course, newspapers. For private education sector, they switched to online learning, and so activities were continuing as usual, but for some teachers still faced challenges. Online education in Tanzania is still very new, even in private education where people can afford it. And so nobody was really prepared, and you could notice the impact right away. Now, in terms of how long students are going to be away, well, the students are already back in schools from June the 1st this year. So schools are back. Everybody is going back to school, but with a lot of precautions. You will notice a lot of hand wash stations in every school. At the entrance, there's a hand wash station. So everybody has to wash their hands, sanitize before they get into school. There's a requirement that people must wear masks, even though you can still see a lot of people without masks. So the situation is a bit less tense now than it was at the beginning of the year. The government did not shut down everything. It's only schools that were closed, but all the other operations were going on as usual. There wasn't any complete shutdown. At the beginning, a lot of people were scared, but the government kept encouraging people that they are getting the situation under control, encouraging people to use local methods of treatments, and it has pretty much worked out. A lot of people have opted to using herbal treatments, and we don't hear a lot of COVID deaths cases anymore as it were at the beginning. And there's a big discussion now on whether it was the right thing to continue operations or the government had to shut down everything. And so there's still no total agreement on whether what we did was the right thing or not, but we did not shut down everything. About the future, it's unclear yet. We are not sure when things will return to normal, or whether life will come back to how it were before COVID-19, because so much has changed. People have become more impersonal, no handshakes. We see more online activities now. We see a lot of innovations and inventions on learning platforms being formed every time. And so people are opting more into virtual activities than it were. So it's still uncertain as to when things will get back to normal. And speaking of advantages, what lessons we learned during COVID-19 time, we've had a lot of discoveries. In some cases, we had people discover hands-free hand wash stations. Had some kids discover a hand wash station using a cell phone. Like when you get to the hand wash station, you dial the number on a tank, and then water comes out. You wash your hands. Once you hang up, water stops. This is not something that was happening before, and it's during this difficult time that people started learning and coming up with a lot of discoveries. We also see a lot of websites and online learning platforms being created now, which was not there before. And this is an advantage that is going to last. It's going to remain even after COVID-19. So it's going to add a lot in the whole aspect of learning. And we also see collaboration between government schools and private schools now. This is something new that is growing now, because everybody is trying to see how we can minimize the impact and open this learning to everybody, including the less privileged children. And that's pretty much it for me.
Great, very interesting. The innovations that are coming out of this time. Okay, well, let's go to our last, but not least, panelist. Silver Unyu is the founder and administrator of the Silver Memorial Inclusive Community Learning Center, SMILE, which provides inclusive education to children in Soroti, Uganda. But today he is speaking to us from Leeds, England, and you can look up more about his school at vcaya.org. That's vcaya.org. So, Silver, take it away. Tell us about yourself and what's going on in Uganda. But you might have to unmute yourself. There you are.
Is that okay?
Perfect. We've got you.
Thank you very much. Well, again, my name is Silva, and I'm from Uganda. I have this instrument that I use for raising awareness on coronavirus. The title of my song is Ton Semberera. It means, don't come closer to me. Otherwise, it is too bad for a person with disability, especially the blind, who cannot see how close you have come, who cannot see even the mask, who cannot fix it on. If it is not person to person, we use the sense of touch. And I touch so as to see with the sense of touch. But in case the virus is on that surface, well, Uganda is found in East Africa. It has a population of about 45 million. It is called the Pearl of Africa. Africa's pearl is something which is really very beautiful. Inside a big one. For example, it has the source of the Nile. And the Nile provides water to Egypt and also to Sudan. It is a source in Lake Victoria, and its mouth is in the Mediterranean Sea. To the east of Uganda, we have our brothers, the Kenyans. To the south, we have the Tanzanians. The DRC is west, and Burundi and Rwanda also neighbor it. The capital city is called Kampala, and Ugandans speak very many languages. For example, I think there are about 50 dialects, but interesting enough, I speak most of them. I speak Ateso, I speak Ngakarmojong, I speak all that, and we have been having a very serious president. He's called Yoweri Museveni Kaguta. We got locked down in March 14th, and because of the science-guided approach, we didn't have anybody who died of COVID-19, except 2 days ago, when one came from Kenya. She was 34 years, and she died in Mbale. Otherwise, coronavirus is very, 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 very serious, and it has impacted negatively on all the university education in Uganda, all the primary education in Uganda, all the university training like medical education, teacher training, preschool. The preschools in Uganda are called nursery. Minister of Education and Sports works hand in hand with the Curriculum Development Center, National Curriculum Development Center, and the Uganda National Examinations Board, UNEB, to look after the education in the country. As we talk, even the online learning, which is in Algeria, which is in Tanzania, is not much. In fact, not there in Uganda. Uganda Christian University, UCU, wanted, because of private motives, wanted to bring it, but our president, together with the scientists who are based in the Virus Research Center in Entebbe, said no, it's not safe for our children. 2, we don't have internet. In fact, internet is very, very expensive in Uganda. Not many people access the internet. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the whole of the primary, maybe 98% of the primary kids don't have emails. They have not even seen at Smile, for example. The only computer is mine. And sometimes I try to popularize it. For example, I organize programs using job success with speech, but even the teachers, they don't have emails. If they have, they don't check the emails. So, secondary is affected. Universities are affected. Teacher training schools, there is nothing like online, even in the primary teacher training colleges. The primary teacher colleges, nobody knows about online learning. Now, what about the children with disabilities? The only university that trains teachers for primary teachers to teach children with disabilities is Chambogo University. But Makerere University, nothing. The last university that is introduced, that has been launched, is called Soroti University of Science and Technology. We are trying to advocate that they have programs for special education, but they are saying no. That's why Smile, one day, you can refer to it in the newspaper, Monitor, of September 2019. One day we would have programs to answer the needs of children with disabilities in line with the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. This one is supposed not to be debatable. We're supposed to meet the needs of children with disabilities. But as of now, they are at home from morning to sunset with their parents, many of them even who do not know how to read and write, who don't know Braille, who don't know sign language. They are at home. We are not sure. According to our president, he gave the last speech, the last directive this week. It was on Tuesday, 23rd, Tuesday. He said maybe, to quote his words, in September, we might again revisit it, but the scientists are advising that's very, very dangerous to have our children go back to school. So Uganda will not have nurses. Uganda is risking not to have doctors. Uganda is risking not to have teachers of special education if COVID does not give us peace. Otherwise, I'm happy to be before you and of my presentation. I welcome any questions and contributions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Silver. It is really good that you can speak to that part of the disabled during this time and the blind. That sometimes we don't think about that. That's how, by touch, you know, in this time we're supposed to say 6 feet apart. It's, yeah, very concerning for the blind.
Thank you.
I know Dr. Lilly would like to say something, and I was also reminded that in the chat, you can, we have a feedback form, so anyone coming to the presentation, if you guys will please just click on that and fill it out. So it kind of helps us to plan these events, and it should take you like 1 minute really to fill it out. So just click on the chat, click on the event to fill that out. And then Dr. Lilly is going to speak, and then we're going to open it up to anyone with questions or just discussion, anything that you guys want to talk about education and COVID-19. Go ahead, Dr. Lilly.
I just wanted to follow up on Silva, what Silva just said about the impact of COVID-19 on education in Uganda. And I think it also speaks to some of what is happening in the other countries that have been presented about. I just wanted to mention how serious the impact especially is in a country like Kenya, where I come from. I have a lot of nephews, nieces, kids who are in school, who are supposed to be in school, but most of them are at home. What I know for sure is that there is no learning that has happened since the closures of schools happened in March, especially in public schools, rural areas and really difficult places. So I just wanted to add to what Silva said, because I think Silva put it very well, that the impact is going to be long lasting. It's gonna continue for generations to come. If COVID doesn't give us the peace that we need so that kids can go back, the impact is really going to be deep and lasting. So everybody is moving towards the technology, the remote platform. But the challenges for some countries, like my country, are real, for kids who go to school in the very rural areas. The internet, for example, people may have phones and all that. Internet is very costly. For kids or parents to afford data for their kids so that they can learn using the remote platform is going to be a big challenge. So the only other one thing I wanted to throw out there is the fact that most of our schools, especially secondary schools, are boarding schools. So kids go far away to go to school, but those schools were closed and the kids have come back home. Even if teachers were to send papers home or homework home, it will be difficult because of the distances and things like that. So we are really trying to think and to imagine what exactly needs to be done, especially for this kind of children. Is it just going to create the divide? Because children in private schools, in urban settings, are continuing to learn, even though COVID has caused the closure of schools. So those are some of the things that we can just continue to think about. And then just in closing, I wanted to say our deep condolences to the people of Tanzania for the passing of President Benjamin Mkapa. I think he was the third president of Tanzania. So Zablon, we share, our condolences with your people of Tanzania, my neighbors in East Africa, and we hope he rests in peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All
Okay,
right.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Lilly.
No, I said, all right, Anna, back to you.
Yeah, anyone who has questions or discussion, please. Yeah, go ahead, Palumi.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Kalumi. My question is for the panelists. Basically, you all emphasized the importance of, let's say, technology. I took a class with Dr. Lilly last semester, and some of these things were the things we discussed in class. So my question is, like, based on your experience living in African countries, I'm from Nigeria. What do you think like it's the major challenge for the spread of technology into African hinterlands? If you go to Accra, you go to Lagos, you go to like Nairobi, you see a lot of tech startups. But when you go to those smaller cities, or let's say communities and villages, the incursion of technology has really been quite slow, if not non-existent. So what do you think is responsible for this slow growth? And again, I think like at some point when we are faced with our challenges as Africans, it's very important we think as Africans. Most times I see we are just looking at the angle of technology. If you go back to traditional African society, we had no technology and we were learning, right? So for instance, now in African societies, during those days, we had what we call night play or under tree play, all of these kind of things, where children gather and they usually social distance and they learn. So why can't we go back to these forms of learning or forms of education? What matters is what we are learning. So I think like we do not all have to be talking about technology every day, and I mean we do not have the capacity yet. So while we're trying to build that capacity, why can't we think outside the box, go back to our history and see, okay, gather kids, let them social distance under the trees, under whatever we have, let them learn, tell them stories, ask them questions. These are forms of education. We don't have to wait until Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos come to Africa and build all the 5G for us. We also have to look inwards and see what we can do to help this situation. Otherwise, 2021, 2022, if these things continue, we keep sitting indoors and saying, okay, we are not educating our people. We just have to look inwards.
Great question. Can I take it?
Go for it.
Yes. Thank you very much, Pelumi, for your questions and suggestions. I would say that, let me take the Ghana perspective. I would say that in terms of how to make technology present in rural areas, governments definitely have to ensure that it gives tax breaks to companies that want to invest in the country, and probably ensure that these countries who invest in the countries do have a rural component to it, that they would necessarily have to go to the rural areas to do it. I'm not talking about international companies, I'm talking local Ghanaian startups who are doing all kinds of stuff within the country, and to encourage such persons to venture into the rural areas to ensure that the technology is present with the rural folks. I must say that with the specifics of radio and television, in Ghana specifically, there's television broadcast all in the country, or everywhere you go. There's radio broadcast everywhere you go. And the government of Ghana has made sure that it has leveraged this to ensure that it brings classes to children in their localities. That is one. Two, with the respect to the sitting under trees, and we call it by the fireside. That's what we call it. That is happening currently with kids who are in lower primary, let's say grade 3 and below, because these kids are learn more with stories and songs. So there is an intentionality by the nation Ghana to ensure that these kids get this kind of service through radio and TV, not necessarily through even internet, because of the paucity or the lack of internet facilities in these places. I hear you out on the traditional ecological knowledge of sitting under trees and having a conversation. I think it will be a brilliant thing. I'm sure right now what we are dealing with is the issue of the education and the spread of the coronavirus, and therefore people are iffy about wanting to actually engage in spaces like that. That's my contribution to the question that you posed. Thank you very much.
Can I say something also?
Yes, go ahead.
So from Tanzania's perspective, there has been an advancement a little bit. Now people have smartphones than before. Recently, beginning from 2006, we had a price drop down of smartphones. And of course, some of them are very low quality, but they are smartphones and they are kind of helpful. And you can see them even in the villages, in remote places. And so learning is taking place. This has somewhat helped for people to share knowledge from wherever they are. You see, the challenge of using the fireside learning activities, that now that we have opted to use formal education and we have examinations and there are expectations, it's not easy to make sure that everyone giving that kind of education has the same material that students will be tested on. And so with centralization of education, technology becomes like a necessity. And so it is still not available to everyone, but we see there's a good trend. We're getting there. So right now, a lot of people have cell phones, but also we're using radio, which is pretty much accessible to everyone. In the most remote villages where poverty is extremely rampant, you have at least a central, at least one radio where people can gather around and listen. And you have radio programs where they broadcast all class materials that students are expected to receive. So at least, there's a light. We're getting somewhere. Now, on what can be done, again, tax breaks. The government could give tax breaks on technology. Internet is still very expensive. A lot of people cannot afford. So now we see more companies investing in internet services, and that is somehow bringing in competition to the existing companies, and they are lowering prices. If this continues, maybe one day we may have accessible internet that will help learning to spread everywhere.
And let me just give Silver a chance to respond as well. I know he's been sending some messages to Ashley for response. Silver, are you there?
Hello there.
Yes, hi.
Yes. So if there is anything that Ugandans want, then it must be education. In fact, of the Uganda's population, 54% are children and they're in school. For example, when I called upon them in the rural settings of Soroti, rural in the strict sense of the word, I said, please help me, come and make bricks. I want to make a school for you. I didn't have to talk much. I had about 1,000 people. Dr. Pickard, Louis Pickard, was surprised at the way people were running to. Silva is talking about education. That is what we want. Yeah. They are not ready to sit back. Let's only get together and give them scientific advice. I teach them under trees, under the fields. If you look at those videos, we are under whatever guidance scientifically we give them. Unfortunately, I'm a special education teacher. I'm not a scientist. Otherwise, I would have already given instruction from leads here and they do it. The team at the ground in Smile is waiting for guidance. I'm located in a place where there's even even the phone. If I try to use a WhatsApp, it doesn't go because there's no internet. So I simply call so that I'm able to get connected. Taxes are also there. For example, there's the TAT. That one is the Uganda raises money through taxes. But we shall ask the president to go ahead and remove this tax. Security. Uganda is peaceful. but there are so many other people who are unstable near. For example, South Sudan, Congo, it worsens the COVID situation. So we shall want to peace also alongside taxes, then nutrition. You know, this COVID here, for your information, I don't mind, I'm a victim of COVID. I caught it here, I had symptoms, but I relied on the African, to add on the Tanzanian thing, I relied on it. And it is nutrition that we have to improve. We know there are many problems in Africa, but the land is fertile. Uganda has a lot of food, so we have to concentrate much on also on nutrition. And then teacher training, let's begin from down. For example, the preschool, Uganda has no program for training in nursery teachers. Even primary education, Braille, for example, if you go and ask what is Braille in the curriculum of primary teachers training colleges, nobody knows. If you ask, look at what they're not much. Even at universities, university level, only one university, that's Chambogo University, that has a bit of aspects of special education. I did the IT for the blind in a university at the University of Pittsburgh with a view that I should go to teach at Chambogo University. But up to now, they haven't given me the job. But what is the problem? They say, no, the government has no money. Even your equipment is too expensive. Job success with the speech is $1,200. If you change that Ugandan currency, it's about 3 million. Now, if you sell a chicken in Uganda, it's about 15,000. If you sell our food, a basin of potatoes, a basin, a full bag is 5,000. How many basins will you have to raise to give your child a software of job success with speech so that you will access the screen using voice? So we just have to get together because we don't need to look on. The United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities says that we have to get together. We have to involve the blind themselves. We have to involve the persons with disabilities because they know what they should do. We have to raise awareness. We have to advocate with all these people in authority. Otherwise, we cannot stand. COVID is very unmerciful. Thank you.
Yes, Filippo, please go ahead.
Thank you so very much, Anna Maria. And I like the discussion. And maybe before I say, Silva, it's good to know that you are a Pitt alumni and good to see you here. I wasn't here back in 2012 when you graduated, but I like what you're doing. Thank you very much. I would like to start with the discussion about what Pelumi was suggesting. The digital divide is serious. Not just in Africa, it is serious in the US as well. So what I mean by saying that is we do not ignore technology because there are people who don't have access to it. At least we can provide to whomever has access, as we are also trying to find out ways to make sure that we provide education to those people who don't have access to that. So I think it's a commendable thing for what has been done all over across Africa. The government trying to do whatever they could do to make sure that at least they can reach to those people they can reach. But there's one thing here very, very important as well. Just because we have technology, it doesn't mean that we should just focus only on that. And I guess this also brings out what Pelumi suggested, that instead of just focusing on technology, we can also think of the best ways to, to make sure that everybody gets access to education somehow. And this brings a question to the panelists today, especially about the kind of strategies which were used by the governments, especially, and I want to talk here about TVs and radio programs. How were these done? Were they following the regular curriculum, school curriculum? Were they requiring all the students to watch or listen to those TV radio programs, or they were just providing them and whoever wanted would listen or would watch? Another thing is, did they have any kind of feedback or maybe kind of assessment to their students that they did? Were they providing like quizzes, assignments? Did they want the students to, to do some kind of assignments based on what they were teaching? Do they have some kind of formal guideline? I guess this is as well, which would as well be under the curriculum. Did they have like a formal guideline on what students would have to follow in these programs? Or they were just offered just randomly for whoever has access to them? Did the government have any kind of guideline to those people who didn't really have a complete access to things like those? Because as we know, like Zebulon was saying, people have smartphones, but yes, we do know as well that in some rural areas, you have a lot of people who don't even have a TV, leave away a smartphone. How were all these things, brought into the consideration of all the strategies and approach that were taken by governments in different African countries? Thank you.
Can I take that?
Yeah.
So thank you. That was a good question, Filippo. What the government did was to do what can be done based on what is happening. It wasn't perfect. It didn't reach everybody, but at least they did something. What was happening here, they followed the syllabus, but the focus was on examination classes. We have a terminal examination after secondary school, that is Form 4, and we have a terminal examination after Form 6. And so the focus during COVID-19 was pretty much on these exam classes. The material that were covered, the syllabus, was based on the requirement and expectations of the Ministry of Education and for the forthcoming exam. Now, there are other cases where people did not have access to television or radio. What they did, they established blocks in the districts where parents could come and collect materials for their children. So somehow, even those who did not have complete access to television or radio still had some kind of access to learning materials, and they were following the curriculum. The challenge is assessment. For TV and radio, because they are done from a centralized point, there wasn't, you could see, they used to give assignments, but they never got feedback from these students on whether they understood, whether learning really took place or learning has not taken place. So the expectation was, since these students have an exam that is coming, they would be responsible to watch and listen to the programs because they are for their own benefits. Unfortunately, not every student is aware that it's for their own good. Well, they know, but they don't really care. And as a teacher, you know, there are some students who will still require a certain external pressure for them to do something that is for their own good. So if you ask me how effective it was, it is effective and it is not effective. It is effective for those self-motivated learners, and still ineffective for those learners who expect some kind of a push.
Wonderful, thank you. If anybody else would like to jump in on that comment.
Yes.
I would, okay.
Okay, go ahead, Silva.
Well, well, I'm in touch with the Minister of Education and Sports, the Special Education Desk. I'm in touch with the National Curriculum Development Center, according to Dr. Pamela Nizeyimana, the Senior Education Officer, Special Education Desk, and Minister of Education and Sports. It is a very big problem because one, electricity is in Uganda, some parts, but a large population, a large part of it has no power. So there is no way television could be taken there. But our government also is very, very careful not to increase, not to cause more death in the name of giving education. So what they decided to do is to distribute, first of all, to change the factories to make masks. Ugandan factories had to make masks and sanitizers. And then they were distributed free of charge. The masks were given to the students. As you know, the young boys of today, a matter of use telling them, please go and see a TV, social distancing will not be maintained. So, and then the power cuts. Uganda electricity is not reliable. So the country is trying to distribute radios. Even the radios have not been distributed. Now, if the radios are distributed, what about the material to be taught? So there are many questions than answers to that very, very good concern. The system is very disorganized. That needs us to organize it so madly. There is no curriculum to be followed. There is no feedback. And worst of all, it risks the lives of our children and the future of Africa. Thank you.
Great. Can I take it from there?
Yes, please.
Yes. So thank you very much, Silva. And thank you, Filippo, for your questions. I would say that in terms of following whether the online TV, radio follow the syllabus or follow the schedule, yes, it did follow the syllabus that students were supposed to complete while they were in school before COVID hit. And it is important to note that in Ghana, there are, in the lower levels of education, there is first and second and third terms. All the students were going on to their third term to move on to the next level of class. So if one is in class 2 or grade 2, they were going to move on to grade 3. And so it followed the syllabus to the end. There was, like you said, there was no supervision as to whether every child was sitting at 9:30 to listen to a mathematics class. But I think the responsibility was passed on to the parent to ensure that their son or daughter was sitting by their radio set at the time that the class is going on, so that at least they can have some information and learn something. And then there was the decision that no child was going to was going to be made to repeat. They were going to move on to the next level, whether there was an exam or there was no exam. So every child was definitely going to go on to the next level. What shifted, what was different for Ghana was that for us, our junior high school, which is grade 9, have been made to go back to school, final year, to go back to school, do in-person classes with all protocols followed, face masks that have been provided by government, hand washing stations, thermometer guns to check any child who has sick bays, all of that, to ensure that every one of these children have in-person teacher education in preparation for their national exam to be able to move on to the next level of education. The same thing was done also for senior high, which is grade 12, who will be going on to university, that they are in school with in-person classes, all protocols observed, to ensure that they are preparing for the exam. And as I said, they have started exam right now to be able to move on to the university in September or October, whenever. So Whereas in the other classes, there was not any form of assessment per se. There was some level of instruction that was automatically moving on to the next level of class. For those who were moving from a certain grade to the next grade in terms of high school to university or college, there is in-person institutionalization supported by the government, which is ensuring that that is done. So that is the Ghana situation as at now. It is the case that, you know, technology is a challenge, yes, but these are what was put in place. I think the TV and the radio, because of the paucity of internet in the local areas, the TV and radio were very popular in the rural areas and in deprived schools or communities. The government decided to set up stations, community stations where social distancing is observed for people to listen to a class either on TV or on radio. And then if in case they didn't have a radio or TV in their homes, at least some intervention was done by the government targeted specifically at rural areas. And for universities, because of the way online classes went, the government worked with internet companies to provide free internet access to access educational materials for university students. So all students of the universities were given certain technological packages which would make them access their Zoom pre-recorded classes, their articles, largely, I mean, basically free, which was done by the government in collaboration with two major companies, two major telephone companies, the MTN and Vodafone, to provide this kind of service to university level students specifically. So that's the Ghana situation as we have it right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think we have time for one more question, and I believe Sylvanus had requested to make some comments. So go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much. As you can see the old man from your picture. I'm Sylvanus Ayeni, and I'm originally from Nigeria, and I'm over 70 years old. And I'm the president of Pan-Africa Children Advocacy Watch, which have been dealing with education of children in one of the poorest villages in the world for almost 2 decades. So I really, first of all, want to commend all the speakers. I want to congratulate you, and I want to thank you for what you are doing for the continent, because you are the future of that continent, okay? The leaders of that continent has let us down, including many of my generation. I know them very well. Okay. I've gone on medical missions. I'm a retired neurosurgeon. And I went on medical mission to Atwa, Ghana, Eastern Ghana in 2005, and I've been all over Africa. So I think what I just use that as an introduction. And I'm so happy that most of your panelists are young men. So this is what I'm going to say. What are the lessons of COVID-19? The lessons of COVID-19 is not that we need more technology, yes, we do need that. They are very important because we have to take care of the emergency. But remember now, what will happen when the next pathogen originates in sub-Saharan Africa, like the Ebola epidemic of 2014 and 2015. So what I'm going to say, you can see, as I was listening to everybody, Silva really touched my heart, because he spoke about the challenges from a very practical and pragmatic standpoint, and especially for the disabled. So what do we need? We need a complete new set of leadership, because who will correct the leadership failure? Because you see, the problem we have is that without clean water, electricity, transportation, nutrition, basic education, and a solid healthcare system, sub-Saharan African nations will keep on waiting for the United Nations, Bill Gates Foundation, UNESCO, WHO, World Bank, and so on. So I think the greatest lesson we have learned here is that Sub-Saharan Africa has to develop itself from within. You have everything you need. You have 1 billion brains, and we have arguably the largest repository of natural resources on this planet. So I congratulate these young men and women, and I really thank you for what you are doing, but I know the challenges. Because you see, in the village in which we were, Sylvia, all those things Sylvia was mentioning, we faced those challenges for years. And again, I just want to commend you. I have so much to say. You know, I'm a very good friend of Dr. Karin.
Thank you.
Dr. Karin Wana, you know, right there at Pitt. And I think some of your faculty people also have got in touch with me before. So I just want to thank you, and I'm so happy to be on this panel. Again, I think the future of Africa is bright, because as I listen to all these speakers, you have the right spirit. And I just pray that the good Lord will help you to find enough people that have your mindset, okay? Enough people that will follow you as you lead your countries. And God bless you.
Thank you so much for those comments. We've run out of time, but if any of the panelists want to make any closing remarks, I would invite you all to do that briefly.
Well, I would like to say it's been a pleasure being part of this discussion. Very insightful. Pleasure to know that, Sylvanus, you've been in Ghana.
Yes.
You're my next, my wife is Nigerian, actually. Together, and I would like to be part of this futuristically. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add that for those of us who don't know, we have a program in Ghana. It's a study abroad program in Ghana, and Kwasi is our director there. So he takes good care of our students. Unfortunately, of course, we couldn't go this summer due to COVID, but we are looking forward to future, interactions. Thanks for taking good care of our students and teaching them about Ghana. Did I freeze? Okay, did you hear me? All right,
I'd like to say that.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to thank you a lot. It was a real pleasure to participate with you, and I have been able to come back and to see the enthusiasm and the hope that is put by the panelists in the future. And we have, of course, to work hard to make a better life for our children and our countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. I'd like to take one more moment to ask you guys to fill out the feedback form that I've posted in the chat. That way we can get some information from how things went, if you guys have any suggestions, and that way we can just continue to improve this event series as we continue into the fall.
And we welcome you to continue joining us. This is, we hope to make this continuing series, even after COVID. There's other things we can talk about and help us improve, the work that we do trying to promote the study of Africa here at the University of Pittsburgh and beyond. So thank you all so much for coming. We are really delighted, and it was really a very enriching discussion that we've had, and we look forward to continuing. Thank you so much.
And if you haven't registered yet for Americana, the book club, we are reading a book right now called Americana, and it's a very good book. We've all just been enjoying it. But next Friday at noon, we're going to be discussing the book. So if you haven't started reading, start reading and join us on Friday at noon.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye,
Yeah.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Wange.
Hey, sorry I was late. Time difference got me.
That's okay. I've been having